Hey guys, so I've been playing this game called Hi-Fi Rush lately. It's colourful, funny, and most importantly it has this little kitty in it. She's a mechanical cat and her creator is Peppermint. I'm trying to avoid spoilers here, but I will be doing a mashup of 808 the cat and Peppermint the human. Let's get started. There's quite a lot of colours in this one, and yes, I ended up using some more later on, but for starters, these are the most of the ones that I used. Bear in mind that most of these are either for accents or very small sections. The bulk of the colours I used were the navy blue and the denim blue. I will of course leave a list of all the colours and materials I used in the description box below. Human Peppermint has a bionic leg, which is this one. I've added a few extra details to the leg where that works at crochet scale, and working at chibi size means you really need to omit some details, otherwise you just won't have the space to fit everything in. For example, I decided to omit her Peppermint cat sticker, but I still did the white and yellow sticker, and when I first saw the reference image I genuinely thought that this was a plaster. But that makes no sense to put a plaster on a bionic leg. Anyway, that's the detail I wanted to sew onto this leg. On the other leg, she is just wearing a thigh-high off-white stocking. She does have knee pads on this leg, but again, I opted to omit that because I can't really tell where her knees are anyway. So anyway, moving on, I switched to the light blue yarn to begin crocheting the lighter side of her jort cut-offs thing. I only did a few rows of this and then carried on with the shorts using the darker blue. I stopped midway to crochet the tail. I could have actually waited until the end to attach the tail, but that would have required sewing it in, so I just wanted to crochet the tail directly instead and just avoid the whole sewing fiasco. I also added some wire to the tail to make it poseable and wrapped some batting around it to give it just some extra bulk. It really doesn't need much though, so I added it very sparingly. When things get awkward later on, I can just fold the tail aside to finish up the rest of the body. In this time lapse, I basically switched to the slightly darker blue to get the shorts done, then switched to the navy and eventually to the off-white for her shirt. When it came to her arms, I crocheted them wearing gloves. I then went ahead and added the details including the white panel on the back of her hand, as well as the little toe beans on the palms. Now, I'm not entirely sure why toe beans show up on the gloves, but really don't look too closely at it. If we start to deconstruct this now, it really will fall apart. I mean, why is a cat wearing jorts to start with? They really are cute though, right? Well, anyway, with the off-white yarn, I added some bandages around the arms as a final detail. And this has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I completely and totally forgot to do it the first time round. To do this, I crocheted a simple square strip, then just sewed it onto the arm where I thought the elbows were, just guesstimating. Since her eyes are meant to be, or at least look like speakers, I decided to take my regular safety eyes, sand them and paint them with blue nail polish to make the centre. This would of course be the pupils. I then added a no wipe top coat to seal it and stop it from chipping. Next, I crocheted the brown irises and the whites of the eyes as layered circles. I also crocheted triangles for her ears and will sew them onto her head later on. Damn, I ended up sewing anyway. Oh well, there was quite a bit of sewing in this one. I also added the 2 earrings to her ears that Peppermint actually wears. So those were just simply 2 red squares that I crocheted and then sewed onto the left ear or the right ear. When I'm looking at it, the right ear, but it's actually her left ear. Oh, and I also added a little cat nose for extra cuteness. Okay, so earlier I mentioned that I omitted the knee pad that was on her left foot that she wears, but in hindsight I figured it looked wrong just to not have it, so I decided to add it here. So basically I've just crocheted 2 pieces and sewed them on together, and here you can just see me sewing them onto where roughly her knee should be. I mean, you can't really tell because they're chibi, but it's just a guesstimate. But I find that it balances out both legs and then the other leg doesn't look so plain. I crocheted the shoes off camera and here they are. One is green and the other is, well, this colour. It's neon orange red is the closest I could get for this colour. I could have gone with pink, but I like this one more and I've been looking for an excuse to use it since I first saw it. So for the soles, I cut out some cork board and painted each one a different colour. One is white and the other is orange. I then glued them onto the shoes and set them aside to dry. Once dry, I then added a polyacrylic layer to seal it and protect the paint. And here they are. There were a couple of accessories I needed to add. Her bag, which she wears on her belt, and her bandolier, which she uses to carry her tools. I say tools, it's just a spanner and a screwdriver. To make the bandolier, I crocheted 2 straps, making one shorter than the other. I then sewed the shorter strap to the first one, leaving spaces to place the tools. And that was the bandolier done. I then crocheted a small bag and sewed it onto another strap. Actually, I guess it's really a bum bag. I then added some hook and eyes to everything just to make it easier to take on and off. Using the blue yarn, I then proceeded to crochet her jacket, leaving 2 armholes to then do the sleeves later on. Bear in mind that I say sleeves, they're really short sleeves. Once I got my base, I then basically left it to crochet until the correct length, which is more like a crop jacket. So this will be a very short jacket. I finished the jacket off camera and added some sleeves with the lighter blue, as well as some pockets, and oh my god, these pockets are just so cute. To make her whiskers, I was originally planning to take some wire and paint it with nail polish, or paint it with black nail polish, because obviously I didn't have any black wire to hand. But then I just had the thought, I was sitting there looking at my Scoubidous and I tried it and it actually fit. So that being the case, I cut the wire to length, cut the Scoubidous to length as well, mainly using the black Scoubidous. I then used the blue at the tips. That worked perfectly. So Peppermint doesn't actually wear any jewellery around her neck, but 808 actually has a collar. She does have a dangly chain on there, but in her cosplay version, it's just her red collar, which I decided to add now. I just crocheted a simple strip in red and then attached that to her neck. Okay, so I didn't like the eyes just how they were. They just looked too massive. So I decided to crochet some eyelids for her. Now, I don't know if this is a good choice or not, but I thought I'd try it out. I don't know, what do you think? I've got several choices here. Let me know which one you would have picked. Okay, so I guess the first one is neutral. She looks so angry, so angry. Oh, I don't even know what this is. What was I trying to do here? No idea. Doubtful, possibly. Back to deep set neutral. I think I should probably stop. Oh, I better leave her alone. She's gonna kill me in my sleep. For Peppermint's hair, I started off with the same off-white colour. I crocheted most of it off camera, but obviously I came back to finish it off on camera. When I finished the wig cap, I pulled out the soft pastels and proceeded to brush the ends of her hair with blue. I started off with a lighter blue at first, but then because of the off-white semi-yellowish in the yarn, it was looking a bit green, so I then switched to a darker blue, and that worked much better. And there we are. Admittedly, I wasn't sure about the eyes, but as is often the case, it turned out great. I've never done a cat cosplaying a human before, but I think it turned out pretty well. What do you think? As ever, please like, share, comment, and even consider subscribing if you like the content I create. Don't forget to hit that bell button to be notified whenever I upload a new video, and I'll leave you with this feline rhythm master, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!